Okay, we're going to start off by talking about complex numbers. If you remember, I don't know if you guys had this last year or not, so I'm just going to pretend you didn't. I put a video online too so that you can see it. Somebody else explain it just in case I sound too crazy. All right, so somebody somewhere had to figure out, oh, hey, if we have the square root of -9, well, we know what the square root of 9 is, but we don't know what the square root of a -1 is, because nothing times itself is going to give you -1 times itself, right? Because -1 times -1 is a +1. +1 times +1 is a -1. I mean, +1 times +1 is a +1. Then if you do -1 times +1, then that's a negative, but it's not itself. It has to be times itself. So they said, all right, we can do that. So they came up with this little deal of if you have the square root of -1, it's going to be considered I, and that takes care of everything. So what we would do right here is we would say the square root of 9, and the I would be out in front. I like putting the I out in front so that you don't think that it goes in there with the 9. That's just my personal thing. Okay, and then the square root of 9 we know is 3, so that would be 3i. You always put the whole number first and then the I on the end. But if you have a radical, you can leave the I out in front. But you can still put it out to the side. It would be square root of 9. Just make sure you put it far enough out so that you know that it's not underneath that radical, because it can't be underneath that radical. Okay? All right, so if you have I times I, that is square root of -1 times square root of -1. And remember, anything that if we do like square root of 3 times the square root of 3, that's basically under here, 3 times 3, which is just the 3 times 3, which is 9, which is just 3. Okay, I'm not doing this video over again. Y'all just gonna have to deal with my mistakes because I just can't say stuff right, but that's okay. So basically, when you have these two things, it's like the square root of 9, and we know that the square root of 9 is 3. But look, it's the same thing that's underneath this radical right here. So if you have two radicals that are exactly the same, then multiplied together to act exactly the same, it's going to be whatever is underneath the radical. Okay? So that means square root of -1 times square root of -1 is -1. All right? Now, any pairs, that's going to end up with being -1. So that's why we have right here I to the third. There's a pair, and then here's a dude just left out to the end. So he's going to be -I. Then this I to the fourth, there's a pair, which is -1. There's a pair, which is -1. -1 times -1 is +1. Now, I'm going to put a chart on Canvas for you so that you can kind of study those. But if you kind of think it out, if you just practice with it and think it out, you're going to be fine. Now, here's a little ditty over here. You can notice that if you have I to the fifth, get your pairs. That's one pair, which is -1, two pairs, and then this guy's left over. -1 times -1 is 1, so you're just left with I. Same thing here. There's 1, 2, 3 pairs. Those two are a +1, so you're left with a -1. Same here. So now here's what I wanted you to notice. So right here, I to the first is I squared is -1, I cubed is I to the fourth is 1, but then it loops its way back around again. So I to the fifth is the same thing as I to the first. I to the sixth is the same thing as I squared. I to the seventh, same thing. I to the eighth, booyah. So you're taking out multiples of 4. So if basically right here, multiples of 4. So 5 minus 4, 6 minus 4, 7 minus 4, 8 minus 4. And if we have I to the 9th, then that's a multiple of 4 would be 8. So it's 9 minus 8. So we're right back to here. So you can work your way out like that. It just keeps working its way out now. Just so you know. Okay? So that's your basics on your eyes. Eyes.